Our Region's Business is sponsored by PNC for the Achiever in you. Our Region's Business. Innovation, transformation, momentum. Improving our communities and driving technologies that will shape our region for generations. The collaboration that brings vitality, prosperity, and life to living. Stay with us for the coming half hour as we examine in depth our region's business. Now, here's your host, Bill Flanagan.
Today on Our Region's Business, the local housing market strengthens as foreclosures plunge, plus the three Mascaro brothers, recipients of a national award for business ethics. But first, teetering on the fiscal cliff, just in time for the holiday shopping season. What's an investor and a shopper to do? Well, Stuart Hoffman is back with us. He's Senior Vice President and Chief Economist for PNC, the sponsor of Our Region's Business. Welcome. Good to see you again. Happy holidays.
Thank you. Good to see you, and happy holidays to you and everyone out there.
Yeah, well, this has got to be, in your line of work, a really interesting end-of-the-year season with all the uncertainty about the fiscal cliff and what's going on in Washington. Does it cloud the crystal ball a little bit?
Oh, sure. As we sit here today doing this interview, we don't know the results. Probably won't know them until another week or two. I assume we will not plunge headfirst over the fiscal cliff and break our economy's scrawny little neck. I suspect the deal will be cut, a little rickety bridge built between this cliff, and still some very important decisions to be made on the federal fiscal front. Taxes will go up, probably the top rates, dividend rate, maybe the payroll tax will kick in again at, if not 6.2, 5.2%. So we assume there will be some, frankly, necessary fiscal restraint on the way to some better federal fiscal sanity. But the cliff itself is $600 billion. That is a huge number. That's almost 4% of the economy. The economy is not growing 4%. You don't have to be an economist to take something away from 4% that isn't 4% and know that growth would be negative or we'd be in a recession.
So it would be really, really bad if the worst case actually did happen.
It would be bad. We would go in recession, and ironically, it would mean all that deficit reduction that you get from these higher taxes wouldn't materialize, because a weaker economy, more people unemployed, less tax revenues, less business profits. So yeah, you'd cut the deficit, but you wouldn't cut it in half. You'd cut it by far less than that. So it would really be the art of folly to go over this cliff if you think, well, it's worth the pain of getting the deficit down in half. It's not going to happen. And by 2014, if the economy is still very weak, you could have as big a deficit or worse than you've had the last couple of years. Wow. So it's a mistake. And those on the left or right who say fall over the cliff or go over the cliff, frankly, they don't know what they're talking about. So
assuming it's probably safe to, assuming they cut a deal, it's going to be somewhere between status quo and kind of what the Obama administration has been talking about. So some fix in that range, is that enough to push the economy into recession, or could we weather some prudent fiscal management of the United States?
Oh, I think we could weather, in fact, desire that, because I think a lot of business investment and perhaps some consumer spending that's being held up trying to see how our politicians deal with this could actually, with a little bit of clarity, make some, particularly on the investment side, make some decisions in 2013.
Have you seen a chilling effect in the second half of this year as a result of all this?
We have seen business investment basically grind to a halt in the second half of this year. I'm sure there are a variety of reasons, but I think the election uncertainty, how that would come out, now that that's been obviously determined, the whole fiscal cliff is holding a lot of businesses back. So we do assume there'll be some restraint, $150 to $200 billion. That's a quarter to a third. It is a necessary first step on some degree of cutting that deficit down, but not a fatal first step. And we actually think with some compromise, one showing we can still govern ourselves, we can still get both sides of the aisle to do something, and that we still have a governing capability in this democracy. And that kind of a restraint, I don't think, throws the economy back in recession, but it does keep the economy growing at a moderate pace. That's our view. We will see job growth, but no breakout on the economy on the upside, but fortunately, or we hope, no collapse of the economy into the crevice of the fiscal cliff.
Talk a little bit about the chilling effect of the uncertainty on business. Any sign is it having a chilling effect on the whole holiday shopping season? This is a big time of year for consumers to weigh in.
Yeah, not clear. I mean, consumer confidence was down in early December, but consumer spending was off to a pretty good start on, what is it now, Black Thursday? I guess Black Thursday evening through Cyber Monday.
Yeah.
So we think the holiday sales will be up around 4% from a year ago. That's not as big a gain as last year, but with little inflation, that's still a real inflation gain of around 2% in consumer spending. And since that's that's 70% of the economy, that's the 800-pound gorilla. If consumers are going to grow at a moderate pace, grow their spending, we think it'll be an okay holiday season and an okay year for 2013. But some of those tax hikes that consumers are going to pay is going to prevent any acceleration, any speed up in spending, or any really acceleration in the economy. So this sort of steady, moderate growth, we'd like to see it better, but if the choice is between a backslide into recession or a big acceleration, I think staying in the middle is probably where we want to be.
Yeah, finding that balance point so we can
yes,
manage things effectively and still continue to grow a bit. I've got to ask you what you think about what the Fed did this week, this whole new way of talking about what they're going to do with interest rates in the economy.
Yeah, Chairman Bernanke and his colleagues have put a little more clarity into what's become a more clear policy. They say they're not going to raise interest rates, at least until the unemployment rate, the national rate, falls to 6.5%, if then. And our forecast, and then theirs, that still doesn't happen for at least another 2 years. So the Fed sort of found another, I think, more economically significant way to say we're not raising rates anytime in the next couple of years. But yes, as the economy finally gets back to better health, as reflected in an unemployment rate at or below 6.5%, these extraordinarily low interest rates are going to have to rise. But as I say, a year from now, Bill, we'll still be talking about the same rates, and probably 2 years from now about the same interest rates that exist today for the year ahead.
Well, good news for borrowers, that's for sure. Got about a minute left. Got to ask you how our region kind of fits into this national context. Yeah.
Pittsburgh, southwestern Pennsylvania is doing very well. It's one of a handful of major metropolitan areas that have more people working at the end of 2012 than at their peak, the previous peak, in 2007. And heck, we could go back 30 plus years to the last time this many people were working in our 7-county area. Our housing market's improving. Obviously, the shale gas and all the energy is still doing well. So Pittsburgh is hot. And we expect in 2013 the unemployment rate will come under 7% and remain at least 1% below the national rate, and for the right reasons. Not people leaving the region, but people coming to the region and getting jobs.
Wow, exciting! A great thing to be able to say at the end of 2012, and a lot to look forward to in the new year. Have a happy one, sir. Good to see you.
Same to you. It's good to see you.
Next up, a happier forecast for housing as well. Stay with us.